Thanks very much. Let's dig a little bit deeper into this Republican Party divide. We're joined now by CNN political analyst, the Republican strategist, Anna Navarro, and Dan Holler. He's the communications director of Heritage Action for America. Anna, let me start with you. You think this strategy that a Mike Lee or a Senator Cruz putting forward is suicidal for the GOP. Explain why.
I'm not sure that it's suicidal, and I don't like those kind of dramatic words being used. I think it's one of the things we have to do as a party, be more collegial to each other and ratchet down these very dramatic and personal attacks that are being waged amongst and between Republicans. We're putting on a spectacle that's frankly not benefiting Republicans. It's benefiting Democrats. We have got to learn to disagree without wanting to take each other out, because we disagree as Republicans. It's something, diversity of thought in the Republican Party is a good thing. And it's something that we have to learn to live with. I think that this is good for Ted Cruz and Mike Lee and Rand Paul, because it makes them gives them a higher profile. It gives them a cause. They are rebels with a cause. It, allows them to build up their fundraising lists, and it ends up being all about raising their profile. Yet, we have to think about what's best for the nation, and this is not it.
And you agree with those, Dan. You agree with the Ted Cruzes, the Rand Pauls. You're willing to see a government shutdown in order to try to defund Obamacare.
I think what Mike Lee and Ted Cruz and Heritage Action and others are saying is, we are happy to fund the government. We'll pass a funding bill, and we would urge House Republicans to do it as soon as they get back in September. But we don't want to fund Obamacare. I think it's a really powerful case that we can make to the American people that the law is not being implemented as Barack Obama said it would. People are having their hours cut. People are losing their jobs. They might lose their doctors. Insurance premiums are going up. And we can stop that if we defund the law. I think if we go out and make that case and we make it over August and we make it into September, we can achieve some real victories.
But you're willing to see the government shut down if you fail? If the president, for example, were to veto any such legislation, it probably wouldn't even get to his desk, because it certainly wouldn't pass the Senate, where the Democrats have a majority.
I'm reminded what Speaker Boehner said after the physical cliff showdown. He said, you know what, I made a huge mistake after the election coming out and saying, we need a plan B. I made a bad mistake. I should have said, we passed our tax extenders for everybody in August. I should have said, okay, Harry Reid, okay, President Obama, what's your plan? So they've been down this road once before, and they realized that verging away from their principles resulted in really bad policy. So pass something that reflects the principles of the House.
But you don't have the votes in the Senate, right?
I don't think anybody knows what's possible in the Senate until you try, and that's one of the things that Republicans in Congress haven't tried.
Let me bring Anna back in. Is this a dream that Dan and some of the others have, that they could pass legislation that would defund Obamacare? The president obviously would veto any such legislation, but go ahead and respond to him.
If it's a dream, it's an irresponsible one. I think it's far more closer to demagoguery than it is to a dream. It also is showing very much lack of understanding of the political consequences and consequences on the nation of a shutdown. There is going to be no defunding of Obamacare. Let's face it. They are the majority in the Senate. They have the presidency. We all agree, and we should keep our eye on that. Practically every Republican agrees that Obamacare is a disaster, and we all want to see it fixed or repealed. Now, there's some of us that think the best way of getting around that is to be able to elect more senators, to be able to elect more Republicans, and have the votes to be able to do it. But today, we don't. And forcing and talking and threatening about a government shutdown and threatening other Republicans is not the way to go about winning more seats.
The only people talking about a government shutdown are President Obama and a handful of Republican senators who don't want to fight on Obamacare. And if you look at the Republican senators who are talking about this, folks like Tom Coburn, folks like Bob Corker, they're the ones who are negotiating with the White House on a physical bargain, a grand deal, right? This is what they want. They don't want to be distracted by fighting on Obamacare, which all their constituents want. They want to try to make nice with the White House and find some sort of big deal they can all rally behind.
But they also don't want to suffer the political consequences that Newt Gingrich and the Republicans suffered in 1995 when the government was shut down. I was the White House correspondent for CNN. That was the beginning of the re-election of Bill Clinton as president of the United States, because most Americans blamed the Republicans, Newt Gingrich and the Republicans, for that government shutdown. They hated it.
Right, but nobody looks at the policies that came out of that, right? You could not have had welfare reform without the government.
We're talking about politics right now. The political fallout for the GOP was a disaster.
Well, look, back in March of 2011, Paul Ryan was talking about a government shutdown. He said something that was exactly right. We need to stop talking about the politics and start thinking about what's good for the country. What are the policies that we can achieve? And I think that's what the Republicans
But
need
the
to
notion
focus
that this is just you're living in a dream world, what we just heard from Anna, what say you?
Well, look, I think all these Republicans go out there and say, hey, we'll do whatever it takes to defund and stop Obamacare. But it's kind of like that old Meatloaf song, right? I'll do anything, but I won't do that. They're not willing to do what it actually takes to try to stop Obamacare, and we're running out of time.
All right, Anna, you got the last word. Go ahead.
I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. Look, I go back to telling you it really is bordering on demagoguery. They know they don't have the votes. This is just doing a cause to be able to give themselves a higher profile, including organizations like Heritage, which is fine. I get it. I get the joke. But it's really a cost to the entire party and the nation.
We are happy to see an alternative plan to stop Obamacare, but there's not one out there yet.
Well, let's not forget, Obamacare,
let's elect more Republicans.
It's the law of the land. It passed the House, passed the Senate, signed by the President into law. Supreme Court said it was totally constitutional, as you remember, and then the President was reelected. So it is the law of the land. it
is, but House Republicans were elected in 2010 and maintained their majority in 2012 with the express purpose of stopping the implementation. And they have to decide whether they're going to go along and get along or whether they're going to stand up and fight to try to stop the law.
I suspect most of the Republicans will want to get along as opposed to seeing the government shut down, but we'll see what happens.
And I think most of the nation wants to get along.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. Anna Navarro, Dan Holler, a good debate. Thanks very much.